This was a dark millennium, with gloomy tombs and cold faces exuding sanctity. But some people enjoyed peace and harmony. What kind of art comforted them for such a long time? In Western history, the Dark Ages lasted for almost 1,000 years. During this period, China went through many dynasties. Among them, the Tang dynasty was one of the most prosperous in the history of China. The characters in Western paintings look solemn, while those in Chinese paintings have gentle smiles. The Virgin Mary bore all the sufferings of the earthly world, while Avalokitesvara provided universal salvation. Church spires pierced the sky, while temples loomed among hills and waters. Invariably, people stuck to their pursuit of a spiritual uplift. In the 1980s, the Grand Louvre restoration project was in progress. Archaeologists unexpectedly discovered the Louvre's medieval foundation and moat. We might imagine that around the year 1661, the Louvre would have been a luxurious palace that embodied royal grandeur. In fact, it was a castle, a medieval castle. Half a century has passed, and we can still sense its unique medieval features in these age-old stones.
Donc ici, on a un chapiteau qui est très typique de cette période du Louvre, qui permet de dater la salle de l'époque de Saint-Louis avec ces très grands feuillages comme ça, et puis les fleurs qui se trouvent ici de chaque côté. Donc ici, on est vraiment au cœur de ce Louvre médiéval.
Modern people have numerous ideas in their imaginations about the Middle Ages. Divine hymns and songs, mysterious castles and churches, romantic nights and love stories. At the beginning of the Common Era, the earliest Christians hid themselves in dark and narrow underground tomb passages. They gathered together secretly and prayed to their God by faint candlelight. According to Genesis, God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Having been hidden in darkness for such a long time, the Christians of that time longed for brightness. Pursuing brightness had also become the main theme of the following millennium. The period from the 5th century to the 15th century is regarded as the Dark Ages by modern people. So where was the light that God created? Perhaps in these paintings we can see the light of God. To our way of thinking, the massive use of the color gold in the background and the halos over people's heads all reflect divine light. The Louvre Museum has collected many medieval paintings from Europe, and most of them are icon paintings. But to modern people, the figures in these paintings seem rather rigid and stiff. These features and the gold backgrounds seem to be telling us that these characters are not real people, but divine beings. Compared with the vivid and pleasing images of gods in ancient Greece, these paintings look totally different. Did medieval art represent a real regression?
我们了解西方文明的泉源呢，其实在艺术上面有两大的区块，一块来自于希腊，希腊的神奇可以就像人间的英雄一样的，醉卧美人兮，行掌天下权。另一个区块就是基督教的文明，在这里面，上帝是造物主，它是一种绝对，所以一旦彰显了神性，某种程度就要把你的人性的部分做一个一定的压抑。那么这样的东西在中世纪达到极端，所以我们就可以看到，在中世纪的艺术里面，原来希腊来的这种人间性的元素就几乎不见了。
Medieval people believed that realistic and beautiful artworks were evil temptations. The more pleasant looking the figure was, and the more vivid the colors were, the further away they would be from God. Therefore, during this period, art experienced a fundamental change. Realistic painting methods and techniques were abandoned. Distorted and flat images were used to convey the message of God.
类似中世纪这样的一个神权的时代，在中国基本上是没有发生过的。那么根本的原因跟中国文化的人间性有关联。
China didn't go through any theocratic period. But that doesn't mean that Chinese emperors had no religious beliefs. The belvedere of raining flowers in the Forbidden City was where Emperor Qianlong of the Qing dynasty used to explore Buddhist theories. Many statues of Buddha from Tibetan Buddhism are still on display today. Many beautiful paintings called tanka also hang here. Tanka is an art form of Tibetan Buddhism, originating in the 7th century. Tanka is a kind of scroll painting mounted on silk, used by Buddhist monks to learn Buddhist theories, pray to Buddha, and accumulate good deeds. Tanka artworks are beautiful in color. The world, painted in various colors, looks very delightful. The appearance of bodhisattvas is also very kind and amiable. Tibetan Buddhism carried out major reforms to sculpting methods. In order to ensure that Buddhism was well received by the locals, the monks picked nice-looking people as models to use when sculpting Buddhist statues or painting murals. The images of bodhisattvas in the Huan murals of the Tang dynasty fit people's aesthetic tastes. In Chinese Buddhism, bodhisattva images always feature long hair, and their bodies are adorned with pearls and jade. They look calm and peaceful, showing that they have pure and clear minds. They look like real people, with perfect postures. Such an art form attracted people's attention by giving them what they preferred from the secular world and then taking them into the Buddhist world. But it was a different art form that guided Christians to the Christian doctrines. Solemn and dignified, these seemingly secular scenes are actually stories from the Bible. In the scene of the birth of Jesus, the appearance of animals and the manger was merely to show that the story happened in a stable. Apart from the necessary figures and properties, there wasn't any detail related to real life. The artist's intention was to tell the story using the most concise images. Among the Huan murals, there are a large number of paintings based on Buddhist scriptures. They use images to explain the ideas of some of the scriptures. This painting of Western Pure Land describes the Pure Land where Amitabha Buddha lived. In the Pure Land, the songs of heaven never stopped, and flowers flew all over the sky. The ground was covered in gold, and the buildings were decorated with 7 kinds of treasures. Taking the imperial palace as the model, Chinese artists created this wonderful paradise by using the most beautiful images from the secular world. In these paintings, we can see many scenes related to normal life, such as farming, weddings, and funerals. Artists made use of daily life to express Buddhist doctrines. For example, this mural painting of a baby carriage was intended to explain the doctrine of paying debts of gratitude and showing filial piety towards parents. Children wearing striped overalls in the paintings represented the Lotus Boys, who first entered the Pure Land after reincarnation. In addition, before converting to Buddhism, people needed to be cleansed. So there are scenes of people brushing teeth, washing hair, and even answering the call of nature within the mural paintings. These paintings are bright, interesting, and optimistic, full of secular flavor. In the Tang dynasty, Buddhist paintings reached a peak in terms of a combination of religious doctrine and secular life, whereas in Western Christian art, divine power was highly valued. What do the fish, the snake, and the pigeon mean?
L'art occidental est convaincu que pour la pensée de cette époque, le monde est éphémère, le monde est important, mais l'éternité est au-delà. Et ce qui est essentiel, c'est de se relier à ce qui est au-delà du monde des hommes. Et cette peinture, comme principe, il faut aussi s'en souvenir, est une peinture qui est symbolique. C'est-à-dire que l'homme du Moyen-Âge pense que les choses signifient autre chose que ce qu'elles sont. Elle renvoie une pensée au-delà de ce que voient les hommes.
In Christian art, the fish symbolizes Jesus Christ. The snake symbolizes evil and temptation. The pigeon stands for the Holy Spirit, and the apple means original sin. The golden light from the sky represents God, and the lilies in the Virgin Mary's hands symbolize her purity. Furthermore, the cross stands for the whole of Christianity. As an expert on medieval art, Professor Heck can easily understand the signs in Chinese art. Only if we put away our stereotypes and try to understand people's beliefs can we fully understand the deep meanings of both Western and Eastern religious art. All of the images of medieval art can be regarded as distinct, meaningful symbols. Like a language that conveys God's word, they guide people towards understanding the ultimate truth. In the East, the ultimate truth lay in people's hearts. To understand the truth, one had to experience the joys and sorrows of life. Artists' experiences were reflected in their paintings and sculptures. If a painter had not gained wisdom through his experience, how could the simple lines he painted become so appealing? If a sculptor had not experienced the joy of Zen, how could the sculptures he made become so vivid and lively? The value of an artwork depends on the artist's personal cultivation. It also reflects how much he understands the ultimate truth. In the year 1000 AD, people had passed the first millennium. The last judgment in Christian prophecy was said to be coming soon, and the whole of Europe became very passionate about religion, building many churches. Europe seemed to be covered by a coat of religious purity. However, the last judgment didn't happen, and neither did the final salvation. Europe went through another 500 years of turmoil, with endless religious conflict and natural disasters. Famine and plagues came one after another. Believers who lost their loved ones turned to the Virgin Mary for comfort. People believed that she could bring them comfort, peace, and power.
Personnage capital pour les chrétiens, puisqu'elle est la mère de Dieu, en fait. La Vierge de Jeanne d'Évreux est évidemment un des grands chefs-d'œuvre aussi du musée du Louvre et de l'art médiéval dans son ensemble. Et dès le 4e et 5e siècle de notre ère, en particulier au concile d'Éphèse, Et à partir de ce temps, les images de la Vierge vont se multiplier. En même temps, la Vierge est une femme. Elle est la mère de Dieu, donc elle est presque plus facile aussi d'approche, comme une mère, par rapport à Dieu sous la forme trinitaire, Dieu le Père, Dieu le Fils et le Saint-Esprit, plus abstrait peut-être aux yeux de certains.
它其实符合人性的啊，更不用说原来历史中间啊就有所谓的女神的崇拜啊，就有一种母性的依归。常常有人把圣母玛利亚比诸于佛教在东方的观世音菩萨，的确也有它的一个相同处。相同处就是我们刚才提到的一种母性的依归。
To Chinese people, Avalokitesvara was the most familiar bodhisattva. As the incarnation of mercy and benevolence, she took care of the whole of the secular world. As long as you asked, you could expect her to help and care. As a result, Avalokitesvara was very popular in both the Central Plains and Tibet. At the outset, Avalokitesvara took the form of a male figure. In the Huan mural paintings of the early Tang dynasty, Avalokitesvara even had a moustache. Then, the image of Avalokitesvara that we are now familiar with gradually came into being. In fact, in original Buddhist scriptures, bodhisattvas had no gender differences. They would choose different incarnations to help people according to their actual needs.
那么男相转成女相，当然有它的历史原因。如果我们是时代来看的话，可以看到隋唐的时代，它基本上毕竟是一个开阔的时代，有这个雄阔的男相。那么一方面符合这个所谓丈夫的精神，天人师原来佛经里的精神。那么到了宋之后啊，其实中国文化比较走入幽微的路。 那么很多东西，它的线条开始纤细，啊，它的这个整个造型开始柔美。
Avalokitesvara's delicate image reached its peak in the Song dynasty, when the prosperous Tang dynasty had long since passed into history. In 1096 AD, when the Song Empire was fighting the Western Shah Kingdom, Europe had been exhausted by years of disasters and war. In addition, the dreadful plague, the Black Death, had begun to ravage the whole of Europe. In the late 14th century, a priest wrote, "In my whole life, there is nothing but war."
Mais la Vierge également est un chef-d'œuvre de la première moitié du XIVe siècle, de l'art gothique dans son ensemble. Lorsque l'on regarde l'habileté avec laquelle l'orfèvre a su tourner les feuilles de métal pour produire l'illusion d'un véritable vêtement. La silhouette également légèrement en S, qui donne une sorte de suavité à la Vierge, une douceur également de son visage qui, à la différence de celui de la Vierge de la Sainte-Chapelle, est beaucoup plus rond, beaucoup plus doux. L'enfant qui cette fois-ci touche et caresse même la joue de sa mère. Là, elle représente en fait la beauté idéale de la première moitié. Et elle porte également, vous le voyez, c'est la troisième partie, dans sa main, une petite fleur de lys enrichie de perles. En fait, sous les trois petits cristaux de chacun des pétales, des trois pétales de la fleur de lys, étaient autrefois conservées des reliques de la Vierge. Il y avait du voile de la Vierge, des cheveux de la Vierge et du lait de la Vierge.
Christians worship holy articles. In Buddhist belief, there is also a highly regarded treasure, known as sariras. Sariras are relics found among the cremated ashes of Buddhist spiritual masters. The containers that hold sariras are also great masterpieces of Chinese handicraft. In a secret shrine of the Farman Temple, the sariras and imitated bones of Sakyamuni are held in delicate boxes. Made of precious material, the boxes are carved with various flower patterns and decorated with pearls and crystals. The gold-decorated silver box, which holds the Buddha's real sariras, is carved with 14 deity mandalas. It is the earliest tantric mandala ever found. The box is neatly carved, from which we can infer that the artists must have put great efforts into making it. The containers of holy articles and sariras are all masterpieces, but the craftsmen who made them were not regarded as artists at that time. They couldn't leave their names on the works, so we have no idea who made these treasures. These unknown craftsmen made and decorated these holy vessels using the most precious materials and the most to convert them into places full of God's light. This kind of bright, light and high building is called a Gothic-style building and became popular in Europe from the 12th century onwards. Later on, cathedrals were to become important symbols of many European Lying at the southeastern end of Cité Island, it is regarded as the most beautiful flower of medieval France. Inside the church, there are many exquisite carvings, paintings, rose windows and chandeliers. Monks could pray to God by candlelight, accompanied by music. It seemed that their prayers would pierce right through the dome and up into the sky. The German philosopher Hegel once said, "The eyes move upwards till we see the dome, as if we lift our souls to God. Only in this way can we gain peace in the arms of God." Gothic churches became the epitome of stone structures in the Middle Ages.
谈到中国寺院的建筑，尤其是与外国相比的时候，许多的建筑学者会有些遗憾。尤其从一种历史跟考古的角度来看的话，因为木造的建筑容易腐朽，所以在历史复原上有它的一个困难。
The Huan Temple of the Tang Dynasty in Shanxi is the oldest temple to have been preserved. The green hill was wet with rainwater, and the quiet temple was hidden among trees. The Huan Temple lies among verdant hills and green waters, harmonious with nature. In contrast to the huge Western stone buildings, Chinese wooden structures are soft, mild, restrained and implicit, embodying the harmony between man and nature.
那木造建筑其实取自于自然，最后回归于自然，来自于尘土，最后回归于尘土。它其实可以体现一种真实的沉住坏空。就这样，直接关照人事与自然的轮转变化，由此求得解脱。所以，木造建筑所谓的局限，在佛教物灵是一种殊胜，而非遗憾。
Both Eastern and Western religions provide people with comfort. When people feel uncertain or puzzled, they bring courage to people to help them conquer difficulties and gain peace. When we look at a medieval artwork or any religious artwork, we face not only the work itself, but also a carrier of people's spirits. These artworks bring us closer to their pure souls and ultimate spiritual pursuits. Perhaps that's why religious art has endured for so long. Leonardo da Vinci's trees are lifelike. Nizan's trees are abstract. The trees Da Vinci laid down on canvas led him to the Mona Lisa's smile. And that enigmatic smile became the subject of a modern Chinese artist. Join us in exploring the different ideals and goals of Eastern and Western art.
Zhou